Education on surveys. Moving on to the next phase is the elevation certificate, or these goes for surveys that either all or part of the property is inside the floodplain. That could be zone A, zone AE. There's a few different types of floodplains, but the majority of what we're going to deal with is going to be in zone AE, and which simply means it's in a floodplain, and the E means that there is an elevation set for where FEMA, who's Federal Emergency Management Agency, they are who determine flood maps. So the Department of Homeland Security, which is where FEMA is housed under, they determine flood maps. So if you have a piece of property, if a customer has a piece of property that winds up being in a floodplain, we are going to have an elevation certificate. There's no way around it. We got to have an elevation certificate, and we also need a benchmark. We'll get to that here in just a minute. So similar to the survey, an elevation certificate is going to be done by an RPLS, a Registered Professional Land Surveyor. You're going to have a stamp on it. It's going to look kind of like this. We'll look at a couple of other ones here in just a second and show you some different types of what they look like. But the main thing, let's look at the survey real quick. So this is the survey, and it's a 2-acre lot down in Sun Creek Ranch in Brazoria County. So nothing on here really tells us, just like we saw before, we got the north up. This is a great survey. We got a 100-foot front building line here along the road. So they don't want the house anywhere closer than 100 feet to the road. 25-foot building lines on the other 3 sides, the back and the 2 sides. And then there's a 8-foot utility easement across the back. Really it's 16 feet, but you got 8 feet from our customer's property and 8 feet from the property behind them, totaling 16 feet. And then you got a 14-foot Reliant Energy, which that's kind of old school. It's now CenterPoint Energy, but anyway, a 14-foot easement through here. That's where the power line, their power is going underground. And then a utility and drainage easement here, which just means there's a ditch there, and that's where phone lines and that kind of stuff is going. And then the Rustic Wood Lane is the 60-foot right-of-way this is fronting on. So great survey, and fairly recent, because this is a 2016 deal. This is from January of 2016. So lot 39, block 1, corrective plat of Sun Creek Ranch, section 2. So all that good stuff here, but nothing here really telling us that we got it back. What we get this on is on our flood research, AFR, American Flood Research. We send it to them, and they come back and say, oh, it's zone AE. So when we find out that something is zone AE, we let our customer know, hey, you're going to have an elevation certificate done by a registered professional land surveyor. And that's going to be one of these. Tells us the customer's name, the address if we have it, but the main thing gives the latitude and longitude so we can locate exactly where the property is. And it's got some pretty important information on here. So here again, we have it, the zone marked as AE, so it is in fact AE. And what they have here, they have a couple of things called, looks like LAG and HAG, lowest adjacent grade and highest adjacent grade. Grade is just another word for ground or dirt. So they're showing you what the highest and lowest adjacent grades are. It's going to be signed by the surveyor, all that kind of good stuff. And then on it, it will actually have, it's a 2-page document. So it'll tell you a little bit about where it is. It's in Roche-Sharon. And then down here at the very bottom of it, here, right by his signature. So the center line of the street, so that's the top of the crown of the road. Roads kind of have a curve to them, so it crowns. It's 44.9 feet above mean sea level. TBM, which is top of the benchmark. TBM, 44.9 feet. So, well, that tells us pretty well that where the benchmark is, but they tell you in the benchmark location. It's a mag nail set in the center line of Rustic Wood Lane at the center of the property. So, go back to our survey here. there is a benchmark somewhere right in here in the center of Rustic Wood Lane at the center of our property. They've driven a nail in the center line of the street as a benchmark. A benchmark is something that the surveyor and everybody else, most importantly the foundation contractor, will be able to use so that we can shoot our grades with our laser level to make sure that we are wherever the county requires we be relative to the floodplain. So we have a benchmark there to shoot to, a reference point. All right, so it says base flood elevation where we are here, according to the firm maps, is 45.6 feet above mean sea level. 45.6 feet, that is base flood. Everything above 45.6 feet is out of the floodplain. Everything below 45.6 feet is in the floodplain. So this is going to be necessary not only for the permitting, but also it's going to be necessary for the customer to get insurance when all this is done. All right, so that's our elevation certificate. Then that will vary by county based on how high we have to be relative to that base flood elevation. So in this county, base flood is 45.6 feet at this particular lot. Well, what does Brazoria County require? Well, they're going to put it on the permit. Brazoria County is real good about that. Brazoria County requires 2 feet above base flood. So if base flood on our case was 45.6 feet, you can see that Brazoria County has said, hey, what's required? We're going to require 47.6 feet. So we want that the top of that foundation to be 2 feet above the base flood elevation because you are in the floodplain. So we would have to have the house 2 feet higher than 45.6. So we got to end up finishing up at 47.6. In this case, I think we ended up doing a compacted pad. So because we were at like 43.9 feet. So we've got to get from 43.9 to 47.6. So we got to come up almost 4 feet. And I'll bet you if we went in here to the job, yeah. So here's a dirt pad that we had to do for the customer. So what we did is we brought it up with dirt. Not all counties would allow this. Harris County no longer allows this, but we would have brought this up 4 feet and to get it nice and thick. And then we got a 12-inch concrete slab on top of that, and we're off to the races. So where you'll find that'll be here, C11 elevation cert. And of course, H1, the permit, down here a little further, but you'll need to coordinate with your customer on obtaining that elevation certificate and help them contact a surveyor to get that done. But benchmark with natural ground elevation and an elevation certificate is what you're going to need. Let's go look at another one. So here's we'll start with the plat. So this is an old school plat of a place. This is actually from, I think it said 1941. Yeah, 1941, right here, February 41. This is actually the San Bernard River. So obviously, if you're close to a river, there's a high potential that you could flood. And here's a current survey of the subject property we're talking about. So it's Lachelle Marie Kramer Almonte, about 3/4 of an acre, 0.7167. And it is also down in Brazoria County, Texas. So it's a tract of land. It's lot 55. What's interesting about this one is you can see there's a 60-foot right-of-way, Goodwin Drive, the drive on which our property fronts, County Road 502B. What's interesting is, and this happens in several places across the state, the property the customer actually owns to the center of that road, but that road is a public right-of-way. But technically, their property goes to the middle of the road. So anyway, 30 feet of it comes out of our customers, and then I'm guessing Mr. and Ms. Moody over here, the other 30 feet comes out of theirs. But it's 125 by basically 250-foot lot. So yeah, about 3/4 of an acre. And again, we found out that this was also in a floodplain, zone AE. So same thing, we had to go over and get an elevation certificate. So this is a newer one. You see this is from November 2018. It's still FEMA. FEMA regulates all of it. It's County Road 502B. So here's the, yep, this is the right property. There's the latitude and longitude. All these are NA or no because there's not a building there now. So there will have to be an elevation certificate done on the forms or the finished floor when we're done. You can see this is an even lower lying area. You people in the hill country are probably looking at 24 feet. That's got to be a typo. Nope, that's real. So this is the firm panel that it came from. The date of it, again, zone AE. So it is in the 100-year flood, or at least a portion of the property is in the 100-year floodplain. And go down to the next page. And he's got notes down here at the bottom. That's where they are now in the newer one. So same thing, you got the stamp here from the surveyor on the elevation cert from, he signed it November 29th, 2018. The center line of the street is 30.404 feet above mean sea level. Top of the benchmark is 30.04. So the benchmark is a nail with a shiner, which just means a shiny foil piece around it in the center line of County Road 502B at the center of the property. So same thing, if you come back over here to the survey, what he's saying is that right here, he put a nail in the center of that street so that we have a reference point to set our forms to, up, below, whatever we need to do. And we know from his elevation cert that grade at approximate center of property is 26.4 feet. Back up here. There we go. Base flood elevation is 24 feet. Now notice it's in a different spot now than it was on the older form, but base flood elevation for this lot where it sits is 24.0 feet. Brazoria County is going to require that our finished floor be 2 feet above that in this particular case, but it varies from county to county, so don't just say 2 feet and roll with it. Some places may require 12 inches, some places may require 4 feet. It's going to vary, so check with the county flood administration or the county permitting department to find out for sure where they need to be. But in this case, it's going to need to be at 26. The good news is the grade in the middle of this property is 26.4 feet. So what that's telling us is the property is a portion of the property where the middle of it is already out of the floodplain. So that's a good thing. It means it might mean that our regular 12-inch tall foundation would be enough to satisfy the county. We do not have the permit yet on this job, so time will tell. But most likely our standard foundation would be enough to get us out of here. But anyway, so that's what you need to know about, or some of what you need to know about elevation certificates, floodplains. But basically, you can build on a piece of property even if a portion of that property is in the floodplain. However, you are not going to be able to build a home in the floodplain. The home will have to be built up in some way. So, yeah, what this is showing us is that, we'll cover this in a different video on stakeouts, but the property slopes from the back to the front. So it's higher in the back than it is at the front. So yeah, base flood is 24 feet. County requires 2 feet additional. So that's 26 feet. Mean sea level finished floor is what's required. And so yeah, I think we're good. We don't need to. We didn't have to do a dirt pad on this one. We were in good shape. So, all right. Hopefully that helps a little bit. If you got questions, talk to us or your vice president of sales or Stakeout, and we'll be glad to help.